From American Falls to Malad, we've got the biggest stories in District 5 covered. This is the Southeast Idaho Prepcast with Jordan Kaye.
That's right. Welcome into another edition of the Southeast Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney joined once again by Jordan Kaye from the Idaho State Journal in Pocatello. Jordan, what's up?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing good. The Southeast Idaho Prepcast is brought to you by Pure Adrenaline Motorsports, your source for pulse-pounding adrenaline sports apparel and accessories that ensure you have what you need to unleash your inner beast. It is beast mode time for you, Jordan, because we are right in the heart of all this crazy fall sports stuff going on, and you've been busy at the ISJ.
Yeah, only a couple more weeks, though, so the light is at the end of the tunnel.
For sure. So the big story last week, of course, was state soccer. I know District 5 had a lot of teams, Highland, Pocatello, American Falls, Marsh Valley, that were all over there competing. Nobody came home with a state trophy, but some nice performances nonetheless.
Yeah, American Falls, I think, was actually the only local team that had a trophy. They got the consolation championship in 3A, actually won that on penalty kicks late, so that was kind of an impressive fun way to end your season. The two big surprising ones, though, were Marsh Valley girls lost in the first round. They had only lost like one game all season, were ranked pretty highly, but as we mentioned last week, they had a really tough road through state, and so that was just kind of one of those unfortunate just spots on the bracket. Then the other one was Highland, which entered the state tournament 16-0, had a goal differential of like 89-7. They win their first game pretty handily against a Thunder Ridge team that they actually had to beat in the district championship, and then lose the next day on Friday and lose again in the third place game on Saturday. Kind of tough conditions from everything I heard, that, a lot of wind and rain and the ball was out of bounds, and you're playing against these Boise teams who you haven't seen all year, and that just makes things so much tougher and more unpredictable. But, nonetheless, what an unreal season they had. 17-2 is, pretty incredible.
Yeah, they fell to the eventual state champs, Lake City, in the semifinals. This tells you how soccer can swing more so than other sports like volleyball or football, right? Upsets really happen a lot in soccer. It seems like Lake City came into state as the number 4 seed. They beat Highland in the semis 1-0. They beat Boise in the championship 1-0. And that's good enough to get them the title.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things you see a lot more in the championship matches, semifinals, finals, is real low scoring games. And I think what happens is whoever scores the first goal starts playing really conservatively, and they're like, let's just see how long we can hold on to this lead. And sometimes they got to hold on to it for 50, 60 minutes, and they try and do that. I mean, I remember last year Preston was in the 4A state title game, scored in the first 20 minutes, and we're just playing real defensive the entire time. They're like, it's raining, it's cold outside, let's just put girls back there and let's just limit a goal. And you can do that sometimes in soccer. It's, a little more strategic than other sports, and you see some odd results as a result.
Yeah, and then at the opposite end is volleyball, where there's nowhere to hide. Like, you have to make the plays if you want to pull out the match, right?
Yeah, no time on volleyball.
That's right. Well, speaking of volleyball, state volleyball happening this week. It's all going to be taking place up north in Coeur d'Alene and Lewiston, which is nice to see the schools up north get to host an event as well. So volleyball is all going to be headed up there. District 5 has representation at 5 of the 6 levels, and we'll just kind of work our way from the top down. Let's start with the 4A bracket. Now, if you're watching the video of this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel or our Facebook page, you're going to see the brackets as we put them up on the screen. If you're listening on IdahoSports.com or listening wherever you download your podcasts, try to follow along. You can get these state tournament brackets on our website, IdahoSports.com, and we will be updating those brackets as well as match results become final. So keep checking back throughout state volleyball for all the latest info there. So here's the 4A bracket. The 4A tournament is going to take place at Post Falls High School, and this will be interesting. Century comes in as the district champs from District 5. They are the number 6 seed overall based on the Max Preps rankings. They will have to play 3rd seeded Twin Falls right off the bat.
Yeah, this is kind of, what a lot of people around Pocatello are used to from Century. This is the perennial power. This is the highland of volleyball as it was, where people were trying to kind of clamoring to go to Century if they were volleyball players, because this is such a good program. And Bree Robinson, who runs Century Volleyball, they had a down year the last couple of years, and last season they were super young, had Presley Merrill, a senior, kind of playing everywhere and just doing so much stuff. But you've started to see the benefits of playing young girls early, and this season is kind of a testament to that. You've got Addie Butler on the outside, and she's just a fantastic hitter as a junior. And this is a Century team who I think can make some noise in the state tournament, especially because they were playing good Preston and a good Pocatello team and some other good 4A competition all season.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this bracket, right, I see Century playing Twin Falls. They actually won their district. They knocked off Wood River, who is actually the number 1 overall seed.
Wow.
So Twin Falls is a good team, but I do like this setup of the bracket. I'd much rather, if I'm Century, I'd much rather be on the side with Twin Falls and Bonneville potentially, right, than Wood River up top. But
sure.
It'll be interesting to see what the Diamondbacks can do there. As you said, a program that's no stranger at state, no stranger to success, right? Before Coach Robinson, Pauline Theros was the head coach. She's now the athletic director at Idaho State University. So it'll be interesting to see how Century competes at that 4A state tournament. If we take a look at the 3A bracket up next, we have Snake River, the number 8 seed. Tough matchup right out of the gates. Number 1, Sugar Salem, undefeated, 35-0. I think the Diggers have only dropped like 3 or 4 sets all season, like sets. So this is a tough matchup.
I know. I looked at the bracket and you just kind of gulp a little bit because, that District 5 and 3A, there's just 3 great programs who all most seasons just beat up on each other. They do it in a lot of sports, actually, but this time, sometimes when you beat up on each other, your ranking or seeding in state isn't the best. And man, it just seems like when you look at this bracket, it's like, whoever's getting a trophy is whoever plays Sugar Salem the latest. And you don't want to do it first. The Diggers were up at the Peg Peterson Invitational in Pocatello playing in the gold bracket, which was against 5A, 4A competitions. And won it, without they dropped like 2 sets, or I don't even know if they dropped 2 sets in the whole thing. I mean, they beat Highland and other really impressive programs. So I think they're the heavy favorite, but Snake River, hopefully, we'll see if they can make a little bit of a run, or maybe get a consolation trophy out of it.
Yeah, Sugar Salem ran roughshod over everybody last year to win state, and they only lost 1 player off of that team. So pretty much everybody's back, which is tough news for Snake River, but a chance to bounce back through the consolation bracket on the other side. And we should mention the 3A tournament is going to be at Lake City High School in Coeur d'Alene. If we move on to the 2A bracket, here is where I think Idaho and District 5, that's not the right one. How about this? The 2A, there we go. This is where I think Southeast Idaho really has the best chance to bring home a state title, right? Last year you had Westside and Bear Lake playing in the championship matchup. Bear Lake just missed out on state this year, fell to Nampa Christian in the play-in match, but Westside comes in as the number 1 overall seed and the favorite.
Yeah, and that's no surprise, though, from last year's team, the Pirates lost a senior opposite, Kasia Fuller, who is one of the best players in the area. They lost their senior middle, Emma Mariscal, but her sister, Jessie, was an outside who was the best hitter last season for Westside. They also have a libero who's now a senior, Madeline Barzy. So, I mean, the Pirates, they're no strangers to the state tournament. They've got the experience. They lost a little bit from last year's team, but man, they're still loaded with talent. So you have to think that they're the favorite to win 2A.
Yeah, Westside will start with the 8th seeded Declo Hornets. They're on the same side of the bracket as Orofino, the 4 seed, and Coal Valley Christian, the 5 seed. I do think Orofino could be sneaky, only because nobody really knows. They only play the teams up north, and so they're a bit of an unknown, but I do like Orofino a little bit. But Westside, I think, is in a pretty good spot there at the top of the bracket as the number 1.
Won't Orofino have a shorter drive too?
Oh, much shorter, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a Fino to this tournament is at Lakeland High School in Rathdrum, right? So
Yeah.
or a Fino to Rathdrum is only a couple hours. So
Gold.
West Side might have the longest trip of anybody to go up there, right?
Yeah, it's got to be 10 hours.
Yeah, all the way in the bottom southeast corner of the state. So,
Yikes.
but the Pirates, of course, as you said, just a championship pedigree type program. So,
Yeah.
If we move to the 1A D1 bracket, this is taking place in Lewiston at Lewis and Clark State College, LC State. If we look here, we'll see Grace, the number 6 seed, having to play third-seeded Murtaugh. I'll be honest, it's been tough for me to get a handle on Grace this year, Jordan. What do you know about this team?
I know it was hard to get a handle on them last year, and they won state. This is a team last season that was, really up and down and started the season a little rough, and then somehow they just know how to, peak at the right time and right around state. And so, they're kind of, as we mentioned, teams being no stranger to state. Grace is no stranger to entering state with people not really knowing who they are. The good thing is from last season's team, the Grizzlies returned probably their 2 best players from a team that won state last year. And Kylie Holst is a junior outside who was the district player of the year last season. Then you've got a junior libero who's now a senior, Sarah Anderson, who just had, incredible court sense. And remember their coach, Heidi Stoddard, last year, raving about some of the balls she was able to get to. So they do have 2, key returners coming back from that state championship team. And though they, can be a little up and down, I think that's not a huge concern.
Yeah. So, and I think Murtaugh in the opening round, that's a good matchup for Grace. Murtaugh's good, but I'm not sure how great their district was this year.
Yeah.
They are on the same side of the bracket as 2nd seeded Potlatch and 7th seeded Greenleaf Friends Academy. I think a lot of people think that the matchup is going to be Troy, the number 1 seed, versus Potlatch, the number 2 seed. They both come from the same district, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Troy versus Grace either. Really? I think you're right. I think Grace really does have the pieces to make a run. Yeah. So let's wrap up with the 1A D2 bracket, where representing District 5 as the number 4 seed, despite taking 2nd place at districts. I think that speaks to the strength of the league. The Rockland Bulldogs, they are the number 5 seed. They will play 5th seeded Kendrick in the opening round. Kendrick is a district champion. Rockland, as we said, was a runner-up. They lost to Mackey in the district championship this past Saturday. Mackey is the 3 seed. So this was a fun league to watch all year, Jordan. I don't know how closely you followed it, but between North Gem and Rockland and Mackey and Grace Lutheran and Ledor. I mean, there was like 5 teams, legitimate teams, that were all kind of beating up on each other that all could have won this thing. So Rockland is battle tested.
No, and I think a lot of people thought that North Gem had a real good shot of getting in there, and Rockland kind of, meandered their way through the bracket and was able to get to that championship match that at least ensures that you're in the state title. And, I think they've got Rockland's just such a fun team for both, girls basketball and volleyball, because they just have some unreal athletes. I mean, one of the best girls basketball players in the area was Kearsley Boyer, just this, big, tall girl who was just a monster basketball sharpshooter who could also play inside. And then on this, volleyball team, she's just a fantastic outside hitter. I mean, super athletic, understands how to move her feet extremely well. She's got great post moves for basketball and can get, pretty close to the net and just slams the balls down. So, I mean, they're going to have, sometimes the best player on the court, and that always helps.
Yeah, Kearsley Boyer, I talked about it last year because I did the 1A D2 girls state tournament, and so I got to see Rockland. She reminds me of like Kevin Durant a little bit in terms of her body type, right? Because she's kind of tall and skinny, and she's very versatile, can play inside or out. So I made the Kevin Durant comp, and
I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, Rockland, I think, is in a good position. Yeah, they lost to North Gem in the semifinals at districts, and had to battle their way back through the consolation side, and they played North Gem again on Saturday, and that was the match that basically decided, who's going to go to state and who isn't, and then they got to square off there. So yeah, Rockland finishes 2nd to Mackey, but I think they're set up pretty well as we look at this bracket again. I could easily see Rockland advancing to the semifinals. Horseshoe Bend is really good. They're the number 1 seed overall. That would be tough for Rockland, but it remains to be seen. But I think the Bulldogs have a chance.
Yep.
So, all right, let's move on to football now, where it's set. I don't have to crunch the numbers anymore. I don't have to do any more bracketology. It's freed up a lot of time on my calendar. I'm very grateful for that.
The crazy thing is, like, no one knew what the heck to do with some of these brackets. Like, even coaches and athletic directors were like calling each other, trying to figure it out. So, I know this is the first year that, going by Max Prep solely sometimes, but man, hopefully in the coming years, it will be a little easier on, schools and media and fans and parents to understand, what the heck is actually going on.
Yeah, it was a wild ride, that's for sure. Let's start with the 5A bracket up top. And again, we've got all of these for you on the video version of IdahoSports.com's Prepcasts on the Facebook page and the YouTube channel. So Highland, and I'll make the screen a little bit bigger so we can see this a little better. And you should do the same if you're watching the video. Make the screen full screen so you can see the bracket. Highland gets in as the number 2 seed. So what happened was Highland defeated Idaho Falls, basically knocking the Tigers out. That was the game. Was that the game you were at, Jordan?
Yeah, I went to both the Highland and Pocatello game.
Okay, so it was pretty impressive to see Highland kind of put away Idaho Falls and kind of put them out of it, right?
Yeah. No, that was one of those games that Highland probably could have won by 50 and, started playing some younger kids late in the second half. And the score wasn't as, indicative, even though they won by, a couple scores.
Yeah, that's right. I remember reading a recap. Highland kind of went for the home run ball, like right away, right?
Yeah. I think it was kind of a message, like, after a lose under Rigby, being like, yeah, we're still really good. And, once you get a good coverage, Jack Whitmer can throw the ball pretty dang far. And so they found the right thing. Raymond Barella, goes for over 50 yards, and then, Highland scores and then scores again and again and again. And yeah, it was over by halftime.
Yeah, for sure. So the crazy thing that happened was Madison knocked off Rigby, which created this crazy 3-way tie for first place. How are we going to settle it? Well, it comes down to a points differential type system, and it kind of shook out the way it probably should have. Rigby 1, Highland 2, Madison 3. So because of that, the Rams get a home playoff game. They were possibly facing the prospect of going on the road, but they will host the number 6 team from the Boise Valley, Skyview.
Yeah,
I think this is a good matchup for Highland, personally.
I do too. I wouldn't can't imagine Skyview can pull the upset, especially with Highland playing at Holt Arena. The one interesting thing as I looked at this bracket is, like, this is the revenge tour for Highland. You beat Skyview, all of a sudden your second round matchup is against a Rocky Mountain team who the Rams probably should have beat in week 0. Their offense still hadn't quite clicked, but even without that, they were on like the 6-yard line with 20, 30 seconds left. Looked like they were going to throw it to the end zone for a game-winning touchdown with like no time left. They end up just, barely losing to Rocky Mountain. And then, I think if you look across the bracket, if Highland makes it, Mountain View's a really good team in it, but, there's a chance that Highland again plays Rigby in that championship. And it was just kind of fun stuff looking at that bracket, the way it works out. It's like, wow, this could be, Highland could play the 2 teams they lost to earlier in the year, but we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, this is reminding me of Highland's run 2 years ago. 2 years ago, because Mason Fulmer was a freshman.
Yes.
And that was a season where Highland had to go on the road for the quarterfinals. They had to go play Bora that year. Bora was one of the favorites. They had Austin Bolt, the Gatorade Player of the Year, who's now at Boise State. They had to travel over to Boise to play that game. They got the road win, and then they had to turn around and travel to Coeur d'Alene in the semifinals and lost a game where it came down to like the final possession, and they could have won the game, but dropped a pass in the end zone. And so anyways, that's kind of reminding me of what this is. They go to Rocky Mountain. I honestly don't think Rocky is that good. They really haven't. They're good, right? They went 7-2 or whatever, but they aren't blowing people out. They're not putting teams away. every game's kind of close.
Yeah.
I like Highland's chances there, and then a trip to Coeur d'Alene where they've had a tough time over the years.
Sure.
That's a good home field advantage up north, but that would be a big opportunity for Highland. So
it's definitely the easier side of the bracket. I think people could argue that Mountain View and Rigby are the top 2 teams in the state, and the fact that you wouldn't have to play either of those until the championship if you're Highland is kind of just like, wow. If there's a run to get a trophy, I mean, Highland is in the perfect spot to do it.
I agree. The bracket sets up very nicely for the Rams. Let's talk about the 4A bracket because speaking of brackets setting up nicely for people, I mean, when you look at the Pocatello Thunder, they didn't get the number 1 seed like we thought, right? Sandpoint leapfrogged them at the very end, but there they are way down in the bottom here. The number 2 seed overall. They will play the 15 seed Bonneville. That'll be a game Friday night inside Holt Arena at 8:15. I should mention the Highland game is going to be Friday night at 5:30, and that'll be the first game of the doubleheader. So it's a Highland Pokey doubleheader inside Holt Arena Friday night. But we talked about it. The Thunder have a chance to host through the championship round.
Yeah, and it's really not a huge deal if you're the 1 or 2 seed because you're going to get home field advantage regardless. And then in the championship, it doesn't even matter because those are already kind of preset based upon where those 2 schools are playing. So, yeah, I mean, this sets up perfectly for Pocatello. And, it's not even one of those crazy things either, just because the rankings are so wonky. It's not like the 1 or 2 seed gets a significantly easier path. It is kind of crazy, though, that Pocatello gets to start off against a Bonneville team that's won, 2 games?
Well, and Bonneville got the final at-large spot into the playoffs with 2 wins. Now, here is where Century fans maybe have a bone to pick, right?
Sure.
Century also won 2 games this year, correct?
Yes.
And one of those wins was over Bonneville.
Yeah.
So how does Bonneville get in ahead of Century?
This is where I don't understand some of these max prep rankings. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then why is Mountain Home? Is that just because they have an automatic qualifier from their division? Okay.
Yep, auto bid. So they're the 16 seed.
Very weird. I think a lot of people thought that the way these brackets were going to be is just we're going to look at the max prepped rankings and max prepped 1 versus 16 and 2, 15 and so on and so forth. And then you look at the bracket and it was like completely different. So there were some people being like, what the heck are we even using the max preps for? How is this being decided? I mean, the whole thing kind of didn't make much sense at all.
Yeah, the way the 4A bracket works is the top 5 seeds automatically go to the 5 district champions. I know there were some people asking, why is Blackfoot the 5 seed? Well, because they won their district. So, and then 6 through 16 are then seeded based upon your max preps ranking. So
okay,
that's how that works. Yep, the 5 district champs get the top 5 spots automatically. So, yeah, Pocatello sets up really nicely with Bonneville. That's a game they should win easily. Just it's fun to think about if Century had gotten that last spot, they would have played the same opponent 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if it's a huge deal, but I think if you're Logan Horrocks at Century, maybe it's like, hey, we get another week of practice, our team gets to actually feel, a playoff environment and things like that. And perhaps that's a good thing if you're building a program to get in, but I don't think they were expecting or Bonneville is going to, run through the bracket or anything like that.
Yeah. 4A we've talked about has been kind of unpredictable this year, right? Everybody just beats up on everybody. Sure. I will say that I like Pocatello's side of the bracket a lot more than Sandpoint's as the number 1 seed. Go ahead.
The other one I thought was interesting is if you're Preston, I mean, what a great, first round matchup as a 10 seed. I don't think there's a lot of people worried about Shelley right now. They've kind of been on a down spiral. Preston's already seen Shelley. They lost by like 1 touchdown. It's not like the Russets blew them out or anything. I mean, I just thought that was a great first round draw. The only problem is if you win that game, then you got to travel to Sandpoint the next week, which isn't the best. But first round, as that goes, I thought the Indians had a real good draw.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as I was going to jump to the top half of the bracket here. Yeah, Preston, the number 9 seed, playing number 8 Shelley. I agree. I think this is a game that's ripe for Preston to win. Shelley, came within an eyelash of winning the conference They lost to Skyline on a 2-point conversion play. They lost 14-12 this past Friday. And because of that, Blackfoot wins the league title. But if Shelley had won that game, then Shelley would have won the conference. And so it's crazy how that can turn on such a dime. But yeah, this 4A bracket I think sets up really nicely for Pocatello to make a deep run, and for Preston, I don't know, go up to Sandpoint and let's see what happens. But
exactly,
yeah, no doubt. The 3A bracket we're going to pull up now. There's not a ton to talk about here because a lot of it has to be filled in still. So when you go to IdahoSports.com and you look at the brackets, you're going to see a bunch of teams missing that have already clinched, right? Like, where's Marsh Valley? Right?
I looked at it like for 10 minutes and could not figure. I was like, what is happening? And then I realized there was not enough spots for teams. I was like, okay, they've just got to be one of those. But where do you know what seed Marsh Valley is? Are they 3, 4, 5?
So it all kind of depends on who wins in the opening round. So the way 3A works is the 5 district champions automatically get buys into the quarterfinals. Okay. And then the remaining 6 teams have these play-in games, essentially the first round of the playoffs. Once the 3 games here, we've got Buell against Weiser, Kellogg and South Fremont, and McCall Donnelly against Snake River. Once those 3 games are played, they will reseed everybody 1 through 8. So it all just depends on who advances out of that opening round. Marsh Valley right now has the 5th best Max Preps ranking, which would put them at the number 5 seed. Now, if Weiser loses, Weiser's playing in the first round. If Weiser loses, then Marsh Valley would slide up to number 4. But there's just no way to put them on the bracket without knowing some of those results.
Gotcha. So, okay, that makes more sense.
That's why that's a little confusing, and you'll see it in the 2A bracket as well when we pull that one up, because they do the same thing. So let's talk about the matchup of Snake River hosting McCall Donnelly. McCall is a team that had to win a Kansas City tiebreaker Monday night to get in. They defeated. It was really weird. They were supposed to have a 3-way tie with Fruitland and Payette, and McCall Donnelly beat Payette on Friday. And we're getting ready for this Kansas City playoff. Well, Fruitland, they're having some off-the-field stuff around their program. I don't know if you've seen this or not, Jordan, but there was the hazing incident with some of their players. So Fruitland forfeited their spot in the tiebreaker. McCall Donnelly said, okay, well, we beat Payette on Friday. We're good, right? And then they're like, no, you still got to show up and do the tiebreaker. And they're like, well, we just beat these guys. So anyways, they beat them again in the tiebreaker, and they got into the playoffs. DJ Green, who we both saw last year at the state basketball tournament, is an outstanding running back for McCall Donnelly. But what do you think of this matchup for Snake River?
I mean, I don't know a ton about McCall Donnelly. What I will say is I think Snake River has shown the last couple of weeks how good of a team they are. They go and beat American Falls, I think it was 2 weeks ago, just handily. And then last week, I thought they had just an incredible game against a Preston team that's much bigger, much more physical, has much more depth, and plays in a higher classification. I mean, not a lot of people thought that the Panthers could win that game, let alone keep it within 3 points. Heck, you go look at Pocatello, the number 2 team in 4A. They only beat Preston by 3 points. So, I mean, that's, how close some of these things are. And I think the Panthers right now are, peaking at the right time. You even look at that Marsh Valley game that they lost. It's not like they lost because they got, real outplayed or anything. They lost because they fumbled like 5 times, most of them like on the first play of a drive. I think Snake River is a lot better than, their record indicates this season. And if they can get past McCall Donnelly, you reseed all these teams and they've got a shot to, at least make a run.
Yep, I agree. And that game will be at Snake River High Saturday at 2 p.m. So a Saturday afternoon game. We will have that game on IdahoSports.com. I should mention we have a lot of these games. So the easiest way to know which playoff games we're broadcasting this week, either video or audio, is to just go to IdahoSports.com and click on the Game Streams tab on the homepage, and that'll show you all of the games that we are broadcasting statewide. It's not all the games, but it's like 75% we're able to cover this week, which is pretty good. So Snake River plays there. They are ranked 6th in the Max Preps rankings. We talked about Marsh Valley is ranked 5th. Mm-hmm. So if Weiser were to lose and Snake River won, you would have Snake River Marsh Valley.
I think the Panthers would be fine with that. I actually think both teams would be like, okay, let's do it again. Pretty competitive teams that I think, you play 10 times, both might win 5. The biggest thing in that is, staying away from those top 2 teams. If you can do that as long as possible, that's a pretty good thing. I think most of the others in 3A are pretty beatable, but you don't want to play Gooding or was it Homedale?
Homedale, and I would throw Weiser in there as well. Weiser only lost to Homedale, 14-6 or whatever it was. So
gotcha.
There's a big 3 for sure. So
yeah.
And if Snake River and Weiser were to both win, that's who Snake River would have to play is Weiser. So,
gotcha. Okay.
Yep. That's the 3A bracket. Here's the 2A bracket. West Side, the number 1 overall seed. We do know that. We can tell you that. And otherwise, District 5 we thought was going to get 3 teams in. Then it's exactly what happened, right? Bear Lake gets in as the number 7 seed in this opening round of action. They will host Coal Valley Christian Saturday afternoon in Bear Lake at 1:00. And then Aberdeen got in as the last team, as the number 11 seed. They will take on Firth Thursday night inside Holt Arena at 6 p.m. That game will be on IdahoSports.com. Let's start with Aberdeen. That is a tough draw right out of the gates.
Horrid. I mean, there's not much, that's just called bad luck. That is rough because Firth for the entire year was slotted into that number 2 spot. Not that, North Fremont would be any easier, but man, just playing that Firth team is tough. I guess if you're Aberdeen, you've got to think, okay, we've got, 2 of the better athletes in 2A and Brody Beck and Cale Adamson. We're going up against a Firth team that just came off a loss. Perhaps that, that puts them a little down. They were expecting to have a bye. Now they have to play. Perhaps they're a little down. Maybe you can shock them a little bit, but not talent-wise. Firth has just been fantastic all year. And the 2 teams that they've lost to are the 2 teams with the bye. So, yeah, I mean, that's tough for Aberdeen, but, maybe first trending down. I don't know.
No, Firth barely lost to North Fremont, and But do we know what's the status of Brody Beck? He missed some time. Is he?
I have not heard yet. No, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it's pretty impossible for them to win if he's not playing.
Yeah, they're a totally different team stylistically when he's not in there because he brings such a running element to that quarterback position. So. I also think Bear Lake has a very tough matchup with Coal Valley Christian right away. You can look at, it's a 7 versus a 10, but Coal Valley is good. They hung tough with Nampa Christian in their regular season finale. We saw them come play West Side earlier this year. They've got a great quarterback in Carter Fortin. For Bear Lake, again, they're kind of a team that's very quietly gone about their business this year without much acclaim. What do you think of this matchup?
I think it's a winnable game for Bear Lake, but not exactly what you want in the first round. The Bears realistically are one of those teams that their record does not indicate how good they are, given that the 3 teams they lost to are, Firth, who was, number 2 most of the year, West Side, who was number 1 all year, and a Jackson Hole, Wyoming team that's like basically a 4A school. So, I mean, those are your 3 losses if you're Bear Lake, and you've got to be thinking, hey, we've got just as much talent as most of these teams in 2A. We have a real good shot to make a run. Thing is, you're saying, Coal Valley was, arguably like a top 5 team all year. That Nampa Christian loss. I mean, Nampa Christian, has just been fantastic most of the season. So, not the easiest matchup for Bear Lake. I guess one of the good things is I think it's at Bear Lake, right?
Yes.
That helps. So, I think for them, you've got some, positives going into the playoffs.
Yeah, this is where for Coal Valley Christian, that trip to West Side actually helps because Bear Lake isn't that much further than West Side. I mean, it is a little further, but and then of course West Side will just be chilling in the bye and waiting for whoever. Honestly, West Side is going to play whoever wins District 1 and 2 up north. It's going to be just like last year. There's only one regular season game happening this Friday night, and it's up north. Grangeville is playing St. Mary's, and the winner of that game will win that district. Since the district champions automatically get buys, they were able to play this regular season game this week while the playoffs are happening simultaneously. What? And whoever wins that will be the 8 seed, and we'll have to go to West Side. So,
Huh. Never heard of that.
Well, and they only did it because of COVID problems. St. Mary's had some COVID problems. They had to move the schedule around a little bit. It happened last year as well. And Grangeville won that game last year. And then the next week had to go to Westside for the quarterfinals. But
gotcha.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So that's what's happening there. Westside is going to play either Grangeville or St. Mary's.
Gotcha.
8-man ranks. Let's look at the 1A D1 bracket super quick. When we look at this, we see that Grace got in as an at-large. We weren't too surprised about that. They will play Potlatch. Now, the way 1A D1 works, Jordan, is that if in this opening round, if teams are more than a district away, they have to try and meet in the middle at a neutral site. So they're going to meet at New Plymouth at 2 p.m. Friday. This is an interesting game for Grace against Potlatch, a team that finished 4th up north in the White Pine League.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't know Potlatch was a school until about 2 days ago. I thought I was like, what? So I can tell you absolutely nothing about Potlatch, but this Grace team has, battled all season long. A lot of their losses have been pretty close. They fell to, North Gem early. I think they fell like Oakley, who's, one of the best teams in the entire classification. And then, last week had a real tough loss to Butte County, who won their district or won District 5-6, I think it is.
Yes.
So, they're not, heading into the playoffs on a super high note, but I think Grace is a team that's good enough to win a couple games in state if they get the right draw. But the thing about, 1A D1 is, man, those top 4 teams are just so good. I mean, there's 1 or 2 losses combined between all of them. So it's just one of those things where it's so top heavy that the biggest thing about being in this bracket is avoiding just the crazy good teams. And I don't know if you can do that for more than 2 games or something.
Yeah. Eventually you're going to run into one of them, right?
Exactly. And so you got to just think that you've got enough talent to pull the upset. And I think Grace does, on, their best night could beat some of these teams, but it would take everything going perfect. And, that's always not the best way to go into a game.
Right. Yeah. We talk about the big 4 in 1A D1, right? It's Raft River, Oakley, Prairie, and Butte County. Those are kind of the big 4.
Yeah.
Grace this year, you mentioned the loss to North Gem, which is a really good 1A D2 team. We'll get to them in just a second. That was the loss at the beginning of the year. Their other 3 losses came to Raft River, Oakley, and Butte County, 3 of the big 4.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I mean, at least there's that, you've seen these teams and the talent they have and perhaps what it's going to take to beat them.
Yep. So we'll keep an eye on how Grace does this Friday in New Plymouth at 2 p.m. against Potlatch, which is definitely a place that exists, Jordan.
Good. I'm glad. I have no idea where it is. I'll go look it up on a map soon.
Yeah, it's up in District 2 in that White Pine League. So this is why it's fun to have these regional breakdowns because, sometimes it's hard to know what's going on everywhere else.
Yeah.
So, yep. For sure. All right. 1A D2 bracket. North Gem won the Rocky Mountain Conference over Rockland, a game that was, I thought it would be closer, but North Gem really showed that they are the best team. And because of that, they will get the worst team in the field.
Yes.
Camas County, the Mushers, who won 2 games. Coming into last Friday, they had won 1 game. No disrespect against Camas County, but there's teams. This is all predetermined bracketing. There's no at-larges. There's no max preps, anything like that. It's all here's the seeds. Here's where you're going to play. There's better teams in Camas County that could have been in the playoffs this year.
Sure. I think North Gem probably would have loved to have a bye, but if you're not going to get one, I think Camas County is is as close as you're going to get.
Yeah, they play on Thursday at 2 p.m. in Bancroft. And I look at this bracket, and it sets up pretty well for North Gem, I think. If they win that first game, which they probably will, then they're traveling to either Dietrich or Council, which, again, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They're a district champion, and they're having to travel to a 2nd or 3rd place team from another district. But that's a winnable game to me for North Gem. Yeah. And then you're talking about avoiding all the really good team, Kendrick, Horseshoe Bend, Castleford, Cary. They're all on the other side of the bracket except Cary. So you're talking about North Gem maybe playing Cary in the semifinals and being a good game away from a champ. I really like the way the bracket's set up for North Gem.
Also, isn't the school going on at Thursday at 2 p.m.? Like, are they just going to be playing a playoff game like as school's going on? I don't know. That's wild to me. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because maybe they'll let the students out to watch. I don't know.
Probably the whole community is going to just get off work. Probably that's how things work in Bancroft. It's so cool, like how everyone comes together. But
right.
Yeah. I was just curious. Yeah, they've got more talent than most teams in 1AD too. And like you're saying, just avoid some of those, big hitters in the first couple of rounds. And, once you get to the semis, I think, you're going to have to play a really good team to advance. And if you don't have to, really have a tight one or play one of the Careys or the Castlefords or Horseshoe Bend, until then, man, you got to be feeling pretty good about your chances.
Yeah, this is a bracket that's definitely interesting in terms of the unbalance of it, which sets up better for some teams than others. And North Gem's in a good spot. Way back in August on the Idaho 8-man Prepcast, that's our Prepcast that's dedicated strictly to 8-man football.
Mm-hmm.
I did pick North Gem to win the 1AD2 state championship. So
really,
yes, we will see how that prediction plays out. I'm a man of my word, though, and I'm sticking with North Gem.
Wow.
Overall. So we'll see. The other matchup is Rockland. They are playing on Thursday as well at 3:30. So maybe school will be out by then for Rockland.
Perhaps.
They are going to host Garden Valley, the third place team from District 3. I think this is a good matchup for Rockland.
I do too. I think it was that game against North Gem was pretty uncharacteristic for Rockland. I mean, last season, the Bulldogs kept it extremely close with the Cowboys, right up until the end. And you got to give North Gem's defense a ton of credit, like Jared Rulenslabacher for, stopping a Rockland offense that has Gavin Perman at quarterback and Teague and Wes Matthews at receiver. I mean, that's the thing with this Rockland team. They're going to go into every game knowing that they have a better passing offense than whoever their opponent is. Doesn't matter. And so, when you have offenses like that are so, pass heavy, it can trip up some of these 1AD2 schools that don't have to go up against, aren't practicing pass defense very often. And you've got a guy like 6'4" Teague Matthews, like who can replicate that in practice? Like no one. So, I think Rockland kind of plays this style that could win at games that, maybe it's not supposed to win, but then also, that passing offense not working. Sometimes the scores are going to look like what they did at North Gem. So Rockland's just kind of this big wild card that I think, could either just go out first round or, somehow, pull an upset and make it to the semis. And just kind of a real intriguing little team there, kind of by American Falls.
Yep. And Rockland, of course, has great tradition in boys basketball and girls basketball and volleyball, as we were talking about. So
tons of athletes over there.
Yes, the community of Rockland is going to be fired up for that game for sure.
Yeah.
So a little Thursday action for both Rockland and North Gem. That's nice to see. And as we get further along, those Thursday games won't happen as much because there will be fewer teams and all that good stuff. So, all right, that's kind of a breakdown of the football. It's going to be a lot of fun to come back next week and break down the results and who won and who lost and what happened, and maybe talking about some state volleyball stuff as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, Jordan.
I'm excited.
Yeah. What do you got going on at the Idaho State Journal?
I think we're going to be at the at Holt Arena, just so we can hit two games and watch Highland play, watch Pocatello play on Friday, and then Saturday Idaho State plays Weber State at Holt Arena, and then I think the basketball team plays their first game over at Reed at like 6 p.m. So a lot of Idaho State on Saturday, a lot of high school on Friday, and then I'll might have a stream of the Idaho sports going on my laptop to catch some of the Thursday and Saturday games and check in on everything.
There you go. That must be an exhibition matchup for the ISU men.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, it's a busy time of year. You're pretty much going to be living on the campus of ISU. It sounds like. Good
thing I only live like a quarter mile away. So we're good.
There you go. Yeah, that's a nice deal. That's a good gig. So, all right, that'll do it for this edition of the Southeast Idaho Prepcast, brought to you by Pure Adrenaline Motorsports, your source for pulse-pounding adrenaline sports apparel and accessories that ensure you have what you need to unleash your inner beast. For Jordan Kaye, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.